I'm John Cordy. This is my wife Anita, and we came to Panama 8 years ago. We bought this property we're on now 8 years ago, and we're originally from Texas, San Antonio, Texas, but we left about 20 years ago, and we've traveled quite a bit. We lived in Guatemala for 8 years previous to coming here. We also lived in Bariloche in Patagonia, Argentina, and also on Isla Roatan off of Honduras for a while. We took a 3-year drive all over Central and South America, going to every country, every town that we would consider living and retiring in. And we came through this area, Torio area, on the west coast of the Azuero about 14 years ago. Looked at it, fell in love with it, thought it was great, but it was too early for us to make a decision about, is this where we want to retire? So we moved on. And then we spent years traveling all over Central and South America as well, and the Caribbean. And came back here about a little over 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, on our way back from Peru, driving, and shipped our car back to Panama, and came down to this area again, and just happened to find this property. It was the only property really on the market at the time. We fell in love with it, we bought it, and we've been renovating and planting gardens and creating what you see here now for the last 8 years. So when we bought this property, it was nothing. It was just a house and a few big trees around, and all of these botanical gardens and tropical gardens, and all the greenery you see is everything that Anita has planted over the last 8 years. She's a full-time gardener. She's out there 8 hours a day, almost every day of the week. And we have a full-time gardener, sometimes 2 full-time gardeners, just to keep up with what she's created here. And if you get a chance, we'll walk around and we'll show you some of the spectacular gardens. But we came out here, found this place, and fell in love with it, and saw the potential. And it was originally part of a 50-acre, maybe 60 acres of property that goes back up to the main road. And the guy that was promoting it, the developer, built this house. And they lived here for a few years. Then they sold it to another American couple who had it for 2 years, and we came and bought it from them. They went on to Boquete after here, and now they're back in Texas. So we fell in love with this area. We came, and the first couple of nights here, the owners of our home that we bought from took us to a local, sort of a gringo gathering, probably 35 or 40 people, weren't there?
Yes, everybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah, all the neighborhood. It was, everybody brought a dish and had a great time, and we thought, wow, these people are really great. We'd traveled and seen all the expat communities all over Central and South America, and we would leave an expat area or an expat gathering somewhere, and Anita would always say to me, these people are either wanted or unwanted. Until we came here. We met with this group of people, and they were like us. They were normal people just looking for another great escape or great place to go and to be and to have another life and to retire. And so, that was part of what attracted us, was the community itself. In this area, we probably got, at this point, probably 15 B&Bs and small eco-hotels and that sort of thing. We also have at least half a dozen restaurants. So it's a very, very small community, small area, but it's growing. It's going to be discovered soon, as we call it, the beautiful side of the Azuero. And we've got everything from waterfalls to rivers to beaches to the mountains. The mountains right behind us are green and beautiful and lush. And in the evening, we get the cool breezes from the mountains. In the daytime, we get the cool breeze off the ocean.
And don't forget the surfers.
Ah,
It's a big surf
big
area.
surf area. huge surf area. Morillo Beach, which is just down the beach from us. Even Torio Beach is sort of a beginner's beach, and on past Torio is Palo Seco and Playa Reina. It's a little bigger, but Morillo's they have surf championships on Morillo. And so it's quite a big surf area with a lot of surfers. Therefore, as a result, we've got a lot of hostels too. The 15 or so B&Bs, I didn't include hostels. There's another, I don't know how many hostels, but for the surfers and people who are coming down that, you know, sort of living on the cheap, places for them to stay. So all the way from probably $10 a night in a hostel to $150 a night in a better B&B or hotel, eco hotel. Other than the restaurants and the hotel, and then all of the activities there are to do. Horseback, we've got 2 stables, horseback riding stables that are real quality horses and quality owners that take really good care of them and take you out. They'll take you into the mountains, you go see the waterfalls, I mean, cross rivers on the horses, go to the beach on the horses, race down the beach on horseback. I mean, there's nothing like it. It's very exhilarating. But additionally, those waterfalls are spectacular. I don't know how many we've got. I'll bet you there are at least a dozen major waterfalls in this whole area. And many of the areas have, the communities have gotten together and built trails back into the waterfalls and nice hiking trails. Lots of incredible birds here. The birding is spectacular. Just on our property here, we see birds every morning and every night. What about?
Oh, and to see the parrots fly in the evening, and they all go to roost down here, and in the morning when they get up and leave,
They're
it's
squawking
nice.
like crazy. I mean, in the evening about 5:30, they come in to roost, and for some reason they roost all around our property here. So we have thousands of the big green parrots roosting here, and they're squawking about 6 o'clock or 6:10, just goes silent. It's dead. They're in the trees, they're going to sleep. Next morning, around 6, around 6 is when they lift off, start squawking again, and they head up into the mountains to feed, and then they're back the next night. Whales, this is whale season right now. It runs July through October, and we have always whale sightings right off our beach here. In fact, and toucans. We get toucans, we get chachalacas, we get the herons, the tiger heron and the great blues. I mean, the oro pendulas, lots of different colorful small birds. I mean, for a birder, this is, you know, a great place to come. Infrastructure and places to go to buy things, stores and groceries and gas and all of those kind of things. It's one of the things we like about it, but it's also one of the things that a lot of people don't like about it. We're an hour and a half, at least, to Santiago, which is one of the major towns in Panama where we can do shopping of any kind, really. We're about 20 minutes to the small local grocery stores that are owned by Chinese, and they're typical in Panama. And we can get some things there, but not all the things that Americans like. We like, you know, sometimes we like to have the imported things and things that we get back home, back in the States.
Nice wine.
Yeah, good wines. They're short on good wines here. There are a couple of places in Santiago that have wines, and good wines and beers. So, you know, because it's so far away, we have a chef's kitchen, basically, is what others have referred to it as. Lots of storage. We buy lots of dry goods. We store them. We probably, if we had to, we could probably live 3 to 6 months on what we have in our kitchen without even going anywhere. And you'll see when we take a look later.
Rating.
Well, maybe not 6 months, 3 months, let's say. But, you know, we're set up so that we don't have to go every week. And, you know, you don't want to come home and my wife says, oh, you forgot the bread, because there's no turning around to go get it. You're looking at a 4-hour round trip. So that's not a fun thing to do. The prices here in Panama, where we are, if you want to live like you live at home, it's probably as expensive and maybe even more expensive, because most of the things that you really like have to be imported. And when they're imported, you've got transportation costs and taxes. And so some of the prices of things are maybe more than you might find at Costco back in Texas, or in the hardware stores. They're not like going to Lowe's or what's the other one called? Some of the big hardware stores in the States. They're smaller hardware stores. You may have to go to 3 or 4 to find the right screw that you're looking for. But the prices are a little higher. If you want to live less like an American, if you want to live more like the locals and more like a Panamanian, you can get by with a lot cheaper prices, because you're buying vegetables and the local meats and that sort of thing, and the prices are lower. So if you do a kind of a mixture of the local things and the things that we like from the States, it's still reasonable. I mean, it's less than living in the States, obviously. What really is less out here, if you look at everything, less than living in the States, is real estate, is a home or property. It's so much less. This property, if you could find it anywhere in the States, and you probably couldn't, their own private beach, with everything we've got here, all the gardens and everything, would be way beyond what we could afford in the States. Here, it was affordable for us. What brought us down south in the first place was our business and familiarity with the countries. Anita had lived in Guatemala for 25 years as a young high school kid on up. And she left Guatemala after 25 years, moved back to Texas. I was a single dad at the time. We met, started dating, fell in love, got married, and started a business, because I had retired from my business. I did charitable and philanthropic estate planning for wealthy families all over the country, all over the United States, and investment planning. And I quit at age 54, shut the door, never went back, and we started a tour company. Her mother owns a hotel in Guatemala, and she said, well, now that you're retired, why don't you bring some people to the hotel? So we thought about it. We spent about 6 months really investigating and researching, and decided we would start a small specialty travel company. Because Guatemala at the time was the only country we were considering, is such an artist paradise, with the color, the local color, the people, the Maya, the textiles, everything that the artisanias, everything that they do there. We decided that we would take artists, painters, photographers, and fiber artists to Guatemala to do art workshops. And so we began our business a few days after 9/11, when the rest of the industry was tanking, just like this last experience we've had. The rest of the industry was tanking. We exploded right out of the chute. We started having groups who were interested in going to Guatemala and taking people down there. And one of the places we stayed was Anita's mother's hotel. Can you tell them about the hotel?
Hotel Atitlan.
Hotel Atitlan.
My mother built it with her husband, her Guatemalan husband. He inherited the land from his family, so it's located on one of the most beautiful lakes in the world, according to Aldous Huxley. But it is beautiful, yeah. It's
gorgeous, 8 miles long, or 12 miles long, 8 miles wide, 3 volcanoes, majestic volcanoes around the lake, 12 Maya Indian villages. So anyway, we started bringing groups of painters and photographers and fiber artists to Guatemala. We did that for several years, and all of our groups would repeat. They would come back and come back and come back, and at some point they would typically say to us, we really love your tours and we love Guatemala, but can't you find some other place for us to go experience? So we started looking at expanding. We've since expanded to Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands, to Cuba, and now Panama. Panama is our most recent edition of destinations. So we do those 4 destinations with these art groups. So we've been doing that almost 20 years now. And it's sort of part-time for us. We do it on the internet. We have a website, exploreamazingplaces.com. We have a Facebook page, Explore Amazing Places. And I look for instructors or potential instructors, and I call them and I send them photographs of our destinations and get them onto our website so they can see what we do. And we offer a really great program where we pay the instructor to bring their own group down. And they're paid handsomely. In addition, they get to come spend 10 days with their students, their group of students, painting and seeing these 4 wonderful countries and experiencing the cultures here and the color and all the things that painters and photographers love. So we expanded to these 4 countries, and now that's what we do. As I said, we sort of do it part-time, as we'd put as much time as we're interested in. The rest of the time we spend here on our property and here at home. Safety issues. First of all, let's take the natural landscape and the safety here. Down in this area, we only have 2 poisonous snakes that I know of. One is the fer-de-lance, and the other is the coral. We've never seen a coral snake here yet.
No.
But we see fer-de-lance, you know, occasionally. And they're an aggressive, dangerous snake, but they'll generally run away from you unless you're right on top of them. Then they'll get anxious and they'll want to protect their territory where they are. So that's really all we have down here. I think that's dangerous from the natural nature standpoint. As far as other dangers or safety, there are none. There are no dangers here. I mean, we've had, in the 8 years we've been here, we've had 2 robberies that we know of in this entire area. And they've just been, one of them was just a kid who wanted something, and he decided he was going to take it, and afterwards he got caught and his dad beat him up and took good care of him, so I don't think he's been out stealing anything since. The other was I think somebody from out of town, probably Santiago, that came down here, and they did rob a few homes down on Playa Reina, but it's so rare. I mean, up until that last event, which was 20 miles away from us, that we heard through the grapevine, other than that, or up until that time, we never even locked our doors. We've never had any issue here where we are. So safety's not an issue. You'll see there are no bars on our windows or doors. We can leave everything open during the day. At night, we just sort of lock up, but we didn't used to do that. And so it's very safe down here. We've had no murders, no rapes, no high crimes, just the petty thievery twice in 8 years in a 20, 30 mile area, and that's it. So, I mean, we're very fortunate down here in that respect. I mean, other places in Panama are a little more crime than we have, but here there's virtually none. One of the reasons we ended up here in Panama, when we had looked all over Latin America basically, was the area. And we came out here and the last time looking seriously, found a realtor in Santiago, told him we wanted to live out in this Torio area. And he said, well, that time, 9 years ago, there was only one house on the market, happened to be the property we have now. Now there are several more houses on the market out here. So there's a growing market and lots of developments, not lots, there are a few developments with lots of property that is available. So if one would be interested in coming out to this area of Panama, the best thing to do is just to come out and visit. Get on a plane, come to Panama City. You can get the bus transportation here is great. You can get a big double-decker bus with your TV and snack service and all that sort of thing, and come out by bus. And then from Santiago, you can catch a smaller bus out to this area, or you can rent a car. And that's what most people do, is rent a car and drive out here. It's about 4.5 hours to 5 hours from Panama City. And but our suggestion would be to come out here get a bed and breakfast or stay in an eco hotel or even rent a place. There's several houses for rent out here now. There are a couple of management companies. I call them management companies. They're a one-man operation basically, but you know, they're here. And you can rent a house for a month or 2 months or 6 months or a year or whatever you want. But that's what you want to do. When you first come out to any area that's away from home, you want to try it out. Too many people make the mistake of coming out, fall in love with it. Oh, let's go here. We'll buy property immediately. They buy, and a year or 2 years down the road, they're shaking their head saying, this just isn't what we thought it was going to be. And it's a lot different than living in the States. And a lot better in some respects and some challenges in other respects. So you want to make sure you come out and rent first and just try things out. You might even want to, take a tour, and there are relocation tours. And we know a really good one. And get a feel for the bigger places in Panama. We're sort of off that track and off the map as far as that's concerned. But you can make this an addition to a relocation tour. Say, hey, I want to take a couple extra days and go see this area, because it truly is spectacular. We think, and we've lived in Panama 8 years now, we've traveled all around Panama. We think we've got the place right here. This is the place to come in Panama. We're the only place in Panama, this western coast of the Azuero Peninsula, where you see the sunset into the ocean every night. No other place in Panama do you see the sunset, because Panama runs east and west, so you have no west exposure except on this side of the Azuero Peninsula. That's it.